What if the most painful part of a legendary career isn't the final goodbye, but the confusing years when success suddenly feels like a burden? That's exactly the chapter Roger Federer is opening up about, and it might surprise a lot of fans. Roger Federer's remarkable run in professional tennis officially drew to a close in 2022, when he played his final event at the Laver Cup in London's O2 Arena. Far from leaving with regrets, the Swiss star stepped away as one of the sport's longest-lasting competitors, having stayed at the top for far longer than most expected while battling alongside his great rivals Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic. Even in the twilight of his career, he remained a benchmark for excellence, longevity, and elegance on court. His decision to retire was not about losing passion or motivation, but about his body finally saying enough. Persistent and serious knee issues ultimately forced the former world number one to walk away, despite the fact that he still loved competing at the highest level and did not mind the constant travel that comes with life on tour. For a 20-time Grand Slam champion who built his life around the sport, choosing health over competition was both logical and emotionally difficult. Yet, he accepted that pushing his body beyond its limits would risk long-term damage, something even the greatest champions cannot outrun. What never changed, and still hasn't, is his genuine love for tennis. Federer has often described the sport as more than just a job. It was his lifelong passion and the vehicle that turned him into a global icon. Even after retirement, he has stayed closely connected to the game, occasionally appearing at professional events, participating in ceremonies or special moments, and continuing to follow matches closely from home. Fans still see him in the stands or on broadcasts, not as a competitor, but as a devoted observer who clearly still feels every big point. But here's where it gets controversial for some people who assume Federer's path was smooth from day one. His journey was not the story of an instant prodigy dominating from the moment he turned pro. Like many great champions, he needed time, sometimes painful, confusing time, to understand the realities of life at the top level. Unlike Rafael Nadal or Carlos Alcaraz, who burst onto the scene at very young ages with immediate success, Federer went through a more gradual and sometimes rocky transition before his talent fully blossomed. In a recent conversation with the Swiss newspaper 24 Heures, the Basel native reflected on what he considers the toughest stretch of his professional life: the move from junior tennis to the main tour. First, it all felt like a dream. As a teenager, he was thrilled simply to share locker rooms with players he had admired on television as a child. That early access to the stars of the sport felt like validation that he belonged at the highest level, and for a while the excitement overshadowed everything else. And this is the part most people miss. Once the novelty wore off, he realized that professional tennis is brutally simple. It is all about winning. The romantic idea of just being on tour quickly gave way to the harsh reality that results are the only currency that matters. Constant travel, unexpected defeats, and the emotional strain of trying to live up to expectations weighed heavily on him, especially because of his sensitive and introspective nature. He has admitted that he did not always feel at ease with the relentless pace and pressure of the circuit. Federer has singled out the years between ages 18 and 21 as the most challenging phase of his career. During that period, he was no longer a junior but not yet the dominant champion the world would later celebrate. Those were the years of doubt, inconsistency, and internal battles, when talent alone was not enough, and he had to grow mentally, emotionally, and professionally. Many fans only remember the graceful champion. Fewer remember the fiery, sometimes frustrated young player still trying to figure himself out. Looking ahead, Federer's legacy will be honored in a more formal and historic way. He is set to be inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame in Newport next year. This recognition cements his place not just as a winner of trophies, but as a figure who changed the sport's culture, inspired generations of players, and left a lasting imprint on how tennis is played and perceived around the world. For many, his Hall of Fame induction will feel less like a new achievement and more like the official stamp on a story that fans have celebrated for decades. Here's a question that might spark debate. Does knowing how difficult his early professional years were change how you see Federer's greatness? Do you admire him more for the way he overcame that rough transition? Or do you think the challenges he faced are just part of what every top athlete has to endure? Share whether you think his toughest years made him more relatable or whether true legends are defined only by their peak achievements and titles.